Hey there, this is Terry Wheat from onceuponawheat.com. Thanks so much for joining us. It is almost Thanksgiving, and as adults, there comes to be some point in our lives, a lot of times for male and female, where we are the ones who are in charge of hosting Thanksgiving or at least cooking the dinner. And even if you love to cook like I do, it can be overwhelming because you have many more people than normal, even though we have a large family. For Thanksgiving, people generally have around 20 to 25 people, sometimes less, but a lot of us do. And you not only have the turkey, but you have many more side dishes than you would normally cook for an average meal. And you have desserts on top of that. And it can be a huge undertaking, pretty stressful. And if you don't get everything planned out, then you can be behind schedule. You're trying to figure out when to have people arrive, but you don't want them sitting there for too long waiting. You don't want things to be done at different times and some of your things getting cold and you're still waiting on others to cook. And then the oven, you're going to need to put a lot of different things in that oven, and so things have to be planned for how long they'll take, what you want done first. And so I am here to give you my game plan. I have been cooking the Thanksgiving dinner for our family of probably close to 20 people this year. On a small year, it may be a dozen, and I've been doing that for several years. And so I am here to help you by giving you my plan that I use. So, first of all, you will need to take out your turkey. If you're making the big traditional bird, you're going to want to take that out on Monday. Now, if you just have a small gathering, or if there's 4 or 6 of you or so, then you could get away with a turkey breast if you want, or 2, and that could work. But if you're fixing the big bird, you will get it frozen, and you want to take it out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator on Monday of Thanksgiving week, because you can't just let it sit out on the stove to thaw. It's going to take days, and the bird is very thick and there's a lot there, and it takes quite a while for that to thaw and be ready. And if it's not completely thawed by Thanksgiving, then things aren't going to cook right. The outside would dry out and cook a lot more quickly and be done, and then you're still trying to cook that core, so it would be a mess. Take that out on Monday. Next, as much as you can get done, you want to do it before the day of, as long as it makes sense. Some things are only good when they're fresh, but for like your pies, I get those done ahead of time. On Wednesday usually is when I make the pies and cook those. Now, a lot of the things I will save to cook until Thanksgiving Day, but the pie is something that doesn't need to come hot and fresh out of the oven. When you have it, you're going to eat it cool anyway, and so you can do that the day before. Now, if you make your pie crust, if you're a big baker like I like to do, a lot of times I'll make a homemade pie crust throughout the rest of the year. But for the past couple of years, I have been buying pie crust just because it's a stressful time and you have so many other things going on. Some years my dad will buy frozen pies, but if you do need to make a pie, then I would recommend buying the shells, because it doesn't taste that different for those than homemade, and you have a lot on your plate. So if you are though going to make homemade pie crust, then you can do that a month or more ahead of time, and you can freeze that so that you can pull it out of the freezer. Do it Monday if you do it that week, but definitely don't wait until Wednesday to make the handmade ones. So I go ahead and prep the pies and cook those. Also, you can prepare your turkey if you're going to brine it in like a salt broth with herbs in a bag. Then you can start that the day before so that it can get all of that flavor. You can do the buttering and the herb, or however you're going to make it. You can let that marinate that day if you want. For the dressing is one of my favorite parts of Thanksgiving. Some people stuff the turkey with it. Some people make it separately for the dressing. We have done both for many years. But dressing is what I generally make, and I go ahead and cut up the onions and celery. I saute those in butter, and then I go ahead and combine it with all of my herbs and my breadcrumbs and everything that you have to prep the stuffing and get that in your casserole dish. Now, if you like it out of the box, you can do that, but I would recommend mixing it as well the day before and getting it in your casserole dish. But I choose not to bake it. A lot of those casseroles, if you have to take them from a cold refrigerator and heat them anyway, they can dry out. And if you're going to have them in the oven anyway, you might as well cook them and have them hot and fresh, is my opinion. And so I go ahead and prepare that stuffing the day before, but I don't actually cook it till the next day. So shove that back in the refrigerator. I make a sweet potato souffle, which is really good, and I go ahead and prep everything, put everything together as if it's ready to go and bake in the oven, but I put it back in the fridge, don't bake it yet. If you are going to make green bean casserole or any other types of casseroles, I recommend doing the same thing day before, get them out of the way and ready. And if you are going to make just like corn or something, that can wait till the day of. Generally a lot of people take it out of the can. We generally buy sweet corn during the summer, cut it off the cob, and then freeze it up, and so that is something really quick. But anything that needs to be assembled, you're going to want to do the day before. For gluten-free, if you have read my article, you'll know that I have 2 kids who are gluten-free, and as far as their pies, I do the same kind of filling that I would normally do. I just make it without a crust. Some years I have made gluten-free pie crust because they're not easy to find in the stores, but it's just as easy and they seem to like it just as well with just the filling, and I go ahead and cook that like I would any other pie. So if you have gluten-free issues, that is something that you could do for that. The day before, Wednesday, I also make up the broth for the noodles. In some years, I have had homemade noodles where I have made those earlier in the week, like Monday or the weekend before, because then you'll need a good day for those to dry. But when I am doing the entire meal like I am now, I do not take the time to do that because I've got too many other things on my plate. And so a lot of years recently, we will buy Amish noodles, and those are really good, but we do go ahead and make the broth homemade. So you can put your celery and carrots and your herbs and maybe a little chicken fat if you have any, or turkey fat if you have a little bit, just to give it a good flavor and have that broth ready to go for tomorrow. I cook, another one of my favorites is mashed potatoes, and we eat these often throughout the year, but I go ahead and peel those because those take quite a while, especially for so many people, and my kids eat mashed potatoes like crazy, so we will cook like 5 pounds of mashed potatoes, even with all of the other things. Even for just a regular supper, they eat a lot. So I go ahead and peel those, and I cube them, cut them up and cube them, and I have tried so many ways dealing with mashed potatoes, because throughout the year, if we're having company over, or even if you just have a lot of different side dishes going on, sometimes it can be a little hard to gauge. Sometimes it seems like they'll cook up really quickly, and then you may be cooking other things that you're not sure how long they will take, and then sometimes your potatoes are sitting there and it's tough to gauge. And so I have tried leaving the cooked potatoes in the hot water, and that doesn't work well because they get gritty and this weird texture, and they're not very good. I have tried just having drained the water and having the cubed potatoes cooked, sit there and cover them to kind of keep them hot, but potatoes seem to cool really quickly, and so that didn't work out too well. So I have tried a number of things. Now what we do is just cube those raw potatoes, put them in a big pot, a Dutch oven, or how many ever you'll use for your family. I put those in salt water, covering the potatoes, cover those and put those in the refrigerator to cook for mashed potatoes tomorrow, because probably the longest part of that process is to peel them and cut them, so you'll have that much more out of the way. If you try putting them in the refrigerator without covering them with salt water, then they will turn brown, and like I said, if you use regular water, sometimes they can get a weird texture. So that's what I do for the mashed potatoes. You may consider, a lot of times people make a day out of Thanksgiving and your guests may come really early, especially if you're eating Thanksgiving during supper time. And so if they are going to be there quite a while and you're not going to want to have to fix lunch, then you might consider making up on Wednesday, the day before, maybe a meat and veggie tray or something like that with crackers, cheese, lunch meat, carrot sticks, celery sticks, olives, pickles, whatever. You can also buy those. Those can be pricey, but that is something that you can do ahead of time so everyone won't be bugging you about when you're going to eat, especially the kids who don't understand the time frame, and that'll keep people satisfied. So on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving, Thursday, we start baking the turkey in the morning. Generally, my dad takes care of the turkey and he gets some help from my brother and my husband, and then I take care of the rest of the things. And so they start, it takes about 2 to 4 hours, count on 4 for your turkey, but really you're going to have to judge it by seeing the size of your turkey. It takes about, you need to cook it about 15 minutes per pound. So it depends on what size of your bird you're cooking. Uncovered so that it doesn't brown too quickly on the outside, so that it doesn't dry out. And so that it cooks a little more slowly. And some people, my mom used to cook it overnight, really low, like on 250 or so, put it in late at night, get up early the next morning, and then have it. But I like doing it the morning of. That way you can check it, and throughout the time that it's cooking, you will need to check the temperature. Don't do it too early. Wait until you think maybe it's getting close to being done. You're going to want it to be about 165 degrees, and a turkey can have different thicknesses in different parts, so you're going to want to stick it at a couple different places, but you don't want to stick it too many times, because if you're a cook, you'll know that the juice will come out of all of those holes and you'll lose some of your moisture and some of your potentially flavor. So anyway, you need to cook that first thing. That's your priority Thursday morning, before you get dressed, before you put on hair and makeup, before you do anything else with the house. Also, as far as the house, I'm sure you realize, clean it the week before. Don't save anything until the week when you're trying to cook. Okay, so then probably about 2 hours, maybe an hour before the turkey's done, I go ahead and take out, or you can do the butter much earlier than that, but I take out the butter sticks that I'm going to need for my mashed potatoes. And if I'm going to use some canned milk, I pull that out. And if I'm going to use some regular milk, some whole milk or whatever, I go ahead and pull that out too, so that it's room temperature. Otherwise, if you make a lot of mashed potatoes, you know that, as I said, potatoes cool quickly. If you try to use cold milk or butter, not only will it cool the potatoes really quickly, possibly before you get them to the table, but also I feel like it can make them lumpy. So make sure you pull that out so that you have good mashed potatoes. As the turkey, as it is ready and you take it out, or nearly ready, you're going to want to save about a cup of the drippings, maybe a little more, but a cup usually makes quite a bit. You'll have to gauge. Not all of our kids eat it, and so gauge how much you need, but it's how much gravy you're wanting. So get out all of the drippings that you can from the bottom of the pan of the turkey. Those juices will make incredible gravy, and anything that you're going to have in a package will not be as good, and it's really good on your mashed potatoes. So go ahead and grab that and put it aside. When you do take out your turkey, whether that's at 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is, you are going to want to take it out So plan for when you're putting it in. You're going to want to take it out about an hour before you plan to eat. So if you've told everyone at 4 o'clock, you want to be taking the turkey out at 3. And so you won't do it first thing in the morning in that case, since you're having it later in the day. So, and in that hour is when a lot of things are going to happen. It's when all the rest of the sides get taken care of. So at that point, you're going to keep your oven on, and you're going to take those casseroles and the souffles and the things that you prepared but didn't bake the day before, and you're going to want to put those in the oven now. So now would be the time I put my dressing in, and it would be the time I put my sweet potato souffle in side by side, and they both take 45 minutes-ish, and so you'll want to put those in now. If you just need to heat those because they've already been baked, either because someone else brought that in or you chose to bake those the day before, we'll put those in a little later. So anything that needs baked, you're going to want to put in now, including if you have your green bean casserole too. So on the stove, when you put the dressing and those other casseroles in, you are going to want to put your potatoes, your pot of salt water on the burner, and you're going to want to heat those to boil and go ahead and cook your potatoes until they're really soft. You know, if you're a cook, if you're cooking Thanksgiving meal, I'm sure you're a cook, you're going to want to poke those until they're really soft. So get those cooking. You're going to want to take out your broth that you made yesterday or just out of a carton if you didn't, and you're going to want to start cooking your noodles. Let's see, if you are making corn from a can or from green beans, you can go ahead and get that out and put your seasonings, butter, whatever you want to put, bacon grease, whatever you want to put with those, and have those out. And then you are going to want to have someone start carving the turkey. And at my dad's house, this is my dad or my husband or my brother. And I did forget to mention, you want to let your turkey rest for a while so that the juices can redistribute, and so you won't lose those. If you start carving it right away, you're going to lose the juices right away and things can be a little uneven. So give your turkey about 30 to 40 minutes of rest before you start carving it while you're doing these other things. But you can have whoever in charge of that carving the turkey as you're finishing up on all of your side dishes. And then the rolls, do not make these homemade for this day. They are wonderful homemade. Do that any other day of the year, but you have too much going on this week and this day to worry about homemade rolls, in my opinion. There are some really good ones out there, some Amish rolls and sometimes good restaurant rolls, or if someone wants to make those homemade and bring those in, then that's great, but I won't make them this week. Too much going on. But go ahead and put your rolls in about 5 to 15 minutes before eating time. Our family, when we have get-togethers, a lot of times we'll have sweet tea, and at this point I would put the pot of water on to boil for the tea. And the last 15 minutes before eating, as I said, if you had already baked any of your casseroles or anything, then you can go ahead and throw those in the oven at this point to go ahead and get those heated and ready for the table. So the last 10 minutes before eating, I cook the turkey gravy. So take those drippings and those juices that you had in a little saucepan, heat that up, make a roux with your cornstarch or your flour and a little bit of the drippings or some water or some milk, and mix that up really good so that you don't get dumplings, flour dumplings in your gravy, and then simmer it in there until it thickens. Then you'll have your gravy, and you can have, we usually have the kids set the table, get the drinks for everyone, get their ice, and they generally like to do that. So make sure that someone helps set the table as you're finishing up the final touches. And then after eating, instead of throwing away the turkey skin and carcass and bones and those kind of things, some of that I save and I put on the stove in the noodle pot, I put water in and I put those bones in. You can add, if you have off of your veggie tray, if you have some of those celery sticks or carrot sticks or whatever, you can put them in there, add some garlic, salt, and pepper, and make yourself a really good broth. Let those be boiling as you're cleaning up. And so you can put that in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer for the next time you want homemade broth. And so that is the game plan that I follow on Thanksgiving. I would either write it down if I were you, or put it in your phone or something so that you have a step-by-step list and say, okay, since we're choosing to eat at 2 o'clock, then I need to do this at 9 a.m. and this at 11 a.m. That's how I keep my sanity that day. My mom never wrote anything down. She had done it for so many years that she didn't need to, and she was just able to routinely do that. But I like to make sure that I don't forget anything in the chaos of the day and the 4 kids and handling situations. And so that is my best advice. So I hope it helps you out. I think it will, so that you have a game plan as well. And even if you've been cooking Thanksgiving dinners for a while, you might try this and it could relieve your stress for that day. So hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't yet, check out our blog. We are on onceuponawheat.com. It's where I put all of our travel articles and everything I'm going to do, whether it's the article or whether it's our YouTube channel. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to make them value added for you. And so you can find those there. If you like the video, you can hit like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of our videos as they come out. And you can come follow us on social media. We would love to have you. We're in a number of places, and they are all going to have a different flavor and different information on each one. So we are available on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. We just added Twitter in addition to YouTube. So come check us out, and thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Have a great Thanksgiving and have a wonderful time with your family and friends.